Question 2d, Part 1. Write 8 cos x plus 6 sin x in the form a cos x minus alpha, where a is greater than 0 and alpha is greater than or equal to 0 and less than or equal to pi over 2. We start by writing the identity a cos of x minus alpha is identical to 8 cos x plus 6 sin x. Then we expand the left-hand side using a compound angle expansion. So the expansion of a cos of x minus alpha is a cos alpha cos x plus a sin alpha sin x, and this is identical to 8 cos x plus 6 sin x. Then we equate the coefficients of cos x and sin x. So the coefficient of cos x on the left-hand side is a cos alpha, and the coefficient of cos x on the right-hand side is 8. So the coefficients must be equal. So a cos alpha is equal to 8 and a sin alpha is equal to 6. And this is where we get these two equations. So a cos alpha is equal to 8 and a sin alpha is equal to 6. We'll call those equations 1 and 2. And we're going to solve these simultaneously to find the values of a and alpha. So if we take equation 1 and square it, and take equation 2 and square that and add those two together, we get a squared outside of cos squared alpha plus sin squared alpha is equal to 8 squared plus 6 squared, which is equal to 100. And cos squared alpha plus sin squared alpha is equal to 1, using a Pythagorean identity. So we have a squared is equal to 100, and then taking the positive square root of both sides, we get a is equal to 10. Now if we take equation 2 and divide it by equation 1, we can find the value of alpha. So a sin alpha over a cos alpha is equal to 6 over 8. Now the a's cancel, and we have sin alpha over cos alpha, which is equivalent to tan alpha. So we have tan alpha is equal to 3 over 4. And making alpha the subject of the formula, we get alpha is equal to the inverse tan of 3 over 4, and I've left it in exact form. So therefore, 8 cos x plus 6 sin x is identical to 10 cos of x minus the inverse tan of 3 over 4. Part 2. Hence or otherwise, solve the equation 8 cos x plus 6 sin x equals 5 for x greater than or equal to 0 and less than or equal to 2 pi. Give your answers correct to 3 decimal places. From part 1, 8 cos x plus 6 sin x is identical to 10 cos of x minus the inverse tan of 3 over 4. So solving 8 cos x plus 6 sin x equals 5 is identical to solving 10 cos of x minus the inverse tan of 3 over 4 equals 5. So setting up that equation, we get 10 cos of x minus the inverse tan of 3 over 4 equals 5. So to solve for x, we first divide both sides by 10. So we have cos of x minus the inverse tan of 3 over 4 equals half. Taking the inverse cos of both sides, so we have x minus the inverse tan of 3 over 4 is equal to the inverse cos of half, which equals pi over 3 or 5 pi over 3. So that's a quadrant 1 or quadrant 4 angle, since we have a positive ratio there. Then adding the inverse tan of 3 over 4 to both of these values to make x the subject, we get x equals pi over 3 plus the inverse tan of 3 over 4, or 5 pi over 3 plus the inverse tan of 3 over 4. So evaluating these two expressions, we get x equals 1.691 or 5.879, correct to 3 decimal places.